Welcome to Table Talks, episode 3. Today, I am joined by our special guest, Armin Mazzani, the mayor of Keller, and we're looking forward to having a great conversation. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so honored to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So this is the Table Talks. So growing up in your family and your culture tradition, what were some of the things that you guys did around the table, around food? How did that play a role in your family?
Well, I come from a very unique background. I don't know if you know the story fully, but my dad is Persian. He was born in Iran. And as you know, that's a very rich culture. My mom is Puerto Rican. Her parents are Cuban, but she was born in Puerto Rico. And so the Hispanic culture is also very tight-knit. And so growing up, I grew up from that perspective and that background. And so for us, dinner and family and getting together was a huge thing. And so every Sunday, I remember when I was in Puerto Rico, because I was born there and lived there for about 9 years, we'd get together, the whole family. We had a farm that one of our uncles had, and we get together and literally just break bread. And I remember that growing up, and so as I grew older, that's something that I've tried to instill within my own family as well. It's just the whole idea of getting together and breaking bread as a family.
What were some of your favorite meals that your family would make?
Oh man, in Puerto Rico, you have the lechon, which is the pig, the roasted pig. We would do that occasionally. From my dad's culture on the Persian side, we would do the kebabs and all that, and we get together as well on the weekends. So both sides, you can't go wrong on the food.
Now, was it mainly just the family, that like your parents, siblings stuff, or was it like uncles, aunts, everybody together?
Everybody together.
Yeah.
I'm one of 5 brothers and boys in my family. So we ourselves have a large family, but no, we would get together with the uncles and the cousins, and on both sides, both my mom and dad's side, everybody has a lot of kids. And so it was a big gathering on both sides.
So what does that like represent, growing up with that, the table itself, food, that, what does that mean and represent to you and your family?
Well, for us, it was an opportunity to, share stories. As kids growing up, you get to hear, whether it be my dad or my mom or their own siblings or uncles and aunts and how they grew up and their perspectives. And so it was an opportunity for us to hear that. And also for us to kind of share our perspective, because our generation was a little different than theirs. We've seen different things. They've seen a lot that maybe we haven't been exposed to as far as my generation. And so it was a unique opportunity for us to kind of learn about each other's perspective and just kind of get together and if there's issues, if there's problems that we're all going through, whether it be a cousin here or a uncle there, it was just an opportunity for us to kind of talk about that and work it through.
Yeah, those are great memories, and even like in the culture of how families were designed, built together, but also how homes were built. The 50s, 60s, even into the 70s, the largest room in a house was the kitchen.
Right.
For the sake of having a table. And, now we build homes, the largest room is always the master bedroom. It's like we want to escape from our kids. We have a different, different mindset and approach. But I think growing up, because I grew up, where the table was very valued, similar to you, and we are trying to install that, but, we live such different lives. We're upwardly more mobile usually, so now that we don't live in the same community as our parents or grandparents sometimes. And so how does this play out modern day for you to have that same value, although it's going to look completely different? But we have to fight for that value a little bit because we got practices and we're going. Sure. So sometimes the table has to be, Nicky's or, the Vivos. Like it's got to be, but it's not always this one table at home in the kitchen with all the family gathering. But how do we install that value still? And how are you doing that with your own family here in Keller?
Well, I'll tell you, at least, from my immediate family, and I know that cultures have changed. And like you said, sometimes the master bedroom, it kind of became the largest part of the room or the house. For us, it's actually our kitchen. And I think it's the way that, that I was raised, is the way that my wife was raised. And so that is a place for us to just congregate and get together. And so we purposely made that the biggest room. It kind of leads into our living room as well. So it's all one. And I think, modern day, and I think for the most part, I'm starting to see a change. I think people in our generation kind of value how perhaps our parents and grandparents were raised and the whole idea of family. And so I think things are starting to progress. And so whether it be at your home or whether it be at a restaurant, that to me, that's important. At least it's more for us. And so for my kids, it's something that I want to instill in them. It's the idea of getting together, even if it's just homework. Let's all get together in the kitchen island and do it together as a family. And so little things like that. From a Keller sense, we do a lot of community events. And in my mind, that's kind of how we do, when we talk about our, getting the family together, when we have our July 4th event, when we do our Christmas celebration, when we do our Keller Summer Nights, that is a way for us as a family, as a community, to get together, share stories, enjoy one another. And that is something that I think is so unique about Keller. You look at other cities throughout the Metroplex, and I think we're unique in that sense, in that we do put family first, and that is something very important to us. And you see that through our
I know it's really important to you, and even kind of your tagline, if you will, or not a slogan campaign, but the thing you're really trying to drive home is a value of you, not just a tagline. But what is that tagline?
Yeah, so we like to tell people, hey, we want to be the most family-friendly city in the entire state of Texas. And that is something that years ago we set as a vision. And I'm a big believer that if you keep saying it and you believe it and you practice towards it, then you can achieve that goal. And we were recognized in Congress, in the congressional record, as the most family-friendly city for a lot of things that we're doing. A lot of our family-centric events and making sure that we're doing things that we're supposed to as a government as far as infrastructure, public safety. But we were recognized as that. And so that is something that, like you said, it's kind of like our tagline. But that's our identity. That's who we are. It's a family-centric community, and everything that we do is geared towards that purpose.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, I know that table metaphorically, is really the public square in the city. We don't all gather all Keller residents together around a table necessarily. We do have these huge events, but one of the things that I love about the table, and family values and stuff, is just a place for everyone. Like, it didn't matter, what bad day you had, what your belief was or value, we were family, so we got around the table. So how metaphorically are we making the table in Keller? How are you fighting for that to make Keller a place for everyone?
Yeah, I think in Keller, what makes us unique also is, aside from the fact that we're family centric, we are a community that's very diverse. Take me, for example. It's not many cities in Texas will elect a mayor with the name Armin Mizani. It's a strange name. But my own, I think, background and kind of who I am, it's indicative, frankly, of the values of our community as well. With someone who's got a Persian descent and a Hispanic descent as well. But that's who we are as Keller. We're a welcoming community. And so I'm very proud to be able to serve in that capacity, because not many mayors in Texas or in the country can say that they're mayors of a community that is as diverse and as welcoming as we are here in Keller. So we try to keep enforcing that in the sense that when we do our events, it's to all. It's we never exclude. If you're not from Keller, you can't participate in this. We're very inclusive. Even if you look at things, for example, like our Keller Sports Park. People don't realize, but roughly, over half of the participants in our youth associations are actually not Keller residents. But we do that because the more that we can welcome other members of other communities and who come from maybe different perspectives or different backgrounds, I think the better ultimately we'll be as a city.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, talk about the table, food. So what would you say, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're the mayor, but what would you say is some of your favorite eateries here in our community?
Oh, man. Okay. Everybody always goes with the F&G because it's great. I have a lot of lunch out there with whenever I have a lunch meeting. I think we had a lunch meeting there.
Yeah, we did.
De Vivo's is also really good. I like Boca. I don't know if you've been to Boca.
Yes. Yeah.
Over at Town Center.
Empanadas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think the chef's wife is Puerto Rican. I think he's Mexican. And so they have a pretty cool kind of fusion going on. Yeah. And so probably between those three are my favorite. But we've got some other great restaurants coming along the line. So it's going to be a great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about some of the new restaurants coming in over there on 377 in the new area.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. So I don't know if you know this, but I lived in Chicago before I pastored here. I pastored in Chicago. And actually I lived on the border of, on the near west side of Division in Damon. And then little bit further up Division and Western is where
Okay.
Little Puerto Rico starts.
Okay.
And so it's like
Yeah.
and they have these huge flags
Yeah,
over Division
I've been there.
Street. Yeah, flag to
Yes.
flag in the big parade. So we would just walk a block and I'd get all the Puerto Rican food and we could ever want. And it was
Yeah,
awesome.
it's
The
good.
Jibaritos that are local there in
Uh-huh.
Chicago, they're and the plantains, obviously, and all the food was just so incredible.
Oh yeah. My
And,
wife grew up in right on the edge of Chicago, in Indiana.
Yeah.
But it's on the border between Indiana and Illinois. And we would go to Chicago because I went to school in Indiana, in Purdue.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so she was born and raised out there, and we would go to Chicago occasionally, and I took her to Little Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And this is an Indiana girl. Her family's English and Polish descent. And so it was kind of funny introducing her to that culture because her eyes opened up, but she obviously enjoyed it, and it was fun. But Chicago's got cool little pockets like that where they welcome so many different communities. They even got a Greek town, and that makes that pretty unique.
It's a pretty unique experience. So, but last thing we'll talk about, but food seems to be a thing that, one, everybody loves,
Yeah.
right? But two, you mentioned some of the leaders stuff, but it seems like food also is something that can bring people together. And that's why the table can be a place for everyone. So I know in this day and age, we got a lot of division in our communities. We're not immune to it even here with political divisions, sometimes cultural divisions where we don't understand one another. But it seems like, food can be one of those things that really can bring people together, because I didn't grow up with any kind of Puerto Rican heritage, but yet that food brought me into a culture and an understanding of Puerto Rican heritage and culture that I never would have done without eating in those places. So, looking into the future, how can we use this idea of the table, whether it be food or metaphorically, to kind of bring everyone to the table and those ideas of relationships and talking and sharing stories and what that can do to kind of heal some of these divides?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Food connects us, and through the different cultures that are expressed through our food. You guys, I think, were a perfect example of what that means, what that could do, in a community. When you guys, as a church, not too long ago, you guys had a conference with all different religious leaders, which was really cool that you guys did it here in Keller. But I remember afterwards, you had the Christians, the Catholics, the Muslims, all these different backgrounds, and we got together at Nikki's Italian, here in Keller. And that was a cool opportunity for us to get together and discuss and share our stories. And so I think that, to me, that's the perfect example of what that means. And ultimately, what I think communities like Keller and some of the surrounding communities as well, we're embracing that different perspective, and food seems to be a great way, a great tool to bring those folks together. So that, to me, you guys are the perfect example. I think that'd be the best way to answer that question.
Well, thanks. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship. And I appreciate your leadership here in Keller. And thanks for coming and being part of Table Talks.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate what you guys are doing.